Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This Saturday is UFC on ABC4, and in the main event, we have a heavyweight matchup, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Jailton Almeida, and this is going to be my full breakdown and prediction. And also, because this fight card is on ABC, this is actually a relatively quality fight night card. I believe it's in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we have in the co-main event Anthony Smith versus Johnny Walker, and the featured fight on the card we have Daniel Rodriguez versus Ian Machado Gary, which are both solid fights as well. But this main event, what it really is can Jailton Almeida pass the test? We've seen him dominate certain heavyweights. He's yet to fight someone the level of competition that Jairzinho Rozenstruik brings. And the UFC is trying to build Almeida, and they gave him a top 10 ranked opponent who is a very favorable matchup to him. But this fight is going to be interesting for so many reasons because Jailton Almeida is a weird size for heavyweight. You know, sometimes he's come in, he's weighing like 225 pounds. All the times he's been like 230. He's not that 265-pound heavyweight. And Jairzinho Rozenstruik is a 260, 65-pound heavyweight. He is a massive heavyweight. So I'm curious what Jailton Almeida weighs in for this fight. But I've always felt like Jailton Almeida is kind of a light heavyweight who's kind of experimenting at heavyweight. Like, okay, I don't have to cut weight. I'm winning fights here. But is there going to be a time where he gets exposed? And I think this is the fight where it could happen because Jairzinho Rozenstruik, it is a favorable matchup. He doesn't have the best takedown defense. He doesn't have the best wrestling. But he's so massive, and I think he's going to have a size advantage over Jailton Almeida. Plus, he has elite-level striking. He has nasty power in his hands. I think it really could be the guy. It could be a trap fight where Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's big enough, he's strong enough to stuff the takedowns of Jailton Almeida, and he KOs Jailton Almeida on the feet. And the next thing you know, we're looking at Jailton Almeida at light heavyweight. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's kind of what this fight is set up to be. Jailton Almeida loses his fight, he's heading down to light heavyweight. If Jairzinho Rozenstruik loses this fight, you know, he's getting up there in age, but the heavyweight division is lackluster as it is. He's going to just continue to fight, you know, behind him in the ranks and maybe build another contender off his name. He's not going anywhere. He's 35 years old, not particularly old for the heavyweight division. So it's an interesting fight. It's most meaningful for Jailton Almeida, though. He has to get this win here to prove he can hang with the elite at heavyweight. Okay, if you look at the tail of the tape for this fight, Jairzinho Rozenstruik is 13-4. Jailton Almeida is 18-2. Rozenstruik is ranked number 9. Almeida is ranked number 12. Rozenstruik is 35 years old. Almeida is 31. Rozenstruik is 6'2". Almeida is 6'3". Rozenstruik has a 78-inch reach, and Almeida has a 79-inch reach. So a 1-inch height advantage and 1-inch reach advantage for Jailton Almeida. So if you look at Jailton Almeida's pro MMA resume, of his 18 wins, he has 17 by knockout, 11 by submission. He has never been to a decision in terms of his wins. His losses, he's lost once by knockout, once by decision. You go back all the way in his MMA career, long before he was in the UFC. He got KO'd back in 2017 against a guy I've never heard of. And then also in 2018, that's when he lost the fight via decision. Since then, he is on a 13-fight win streak. He has not lost all the way since that decision loss back in January of 2018. He came in off of Dana White's Contender Series. He submitted Nasruddinov, and then he came into the UFC. And it was kind of a weird scenario. I believe his first fight against Danilo Marquez, where he TKO'd him. I think that was at light heavyweight. Took him down, beat him up, full mounted him, beat him up. TKO'd him in the first round. His next fight, I can't remember who he was supposed to fight. I think it was Shamil Abdurakhimov, but I'm not 100% sure. And he pulled out of the fight. Parker Porter stepped in on short notice. He made quick work of Parker Porter. He took him down, beat him up, and rear naked choked him in the first round. Then his next fight. This could have been the fight he was supposed to fight Shamil. I'm not 100% sure. But again, his opponent pulled out, and we had a short notice replacement of Anton Turkalj. And in this fight, he mauled him. He took him down. He beat him up. He got the rear naked choke. He had him mount it, was beating him up. Eventually, Anton just gave up the rear naked choke. He got choked out in the first round. That's back at UFC 279, September of last year. His most recent fight, and I think it's his most credible win to date, was against Shamil Abdurakhimov. I think it was like the third time they scheduled it. This was back in January at UFC 283. He took Shamil down early in the fight, but not before. In like the first exchange of the fight, he got cracked with a big shot. But then he took him down, dominated him the entire first round, wasn't able to get him out of there, but was beating him up pretty badly. Second round, came out, took him down. Eventually got into mount, was beating him up in mount. Eventually Shamil kind of bellied down. He was flattened out. Jailton Almeida was just pounding away. Pause. And then he TKO'd him in the second round. That's the longest he's gone in the UFC. Outside of, unless you count Dana White's Contender Series, that submission was in the second round. But Jailton Almeida is always looking for a finish. But I do have to say, when looking at the resume, it's not a very good resume because his best win is Shamil Abdurakhimov. That's not a great win. At least it's a big heavyweight. And then even if you want to say, oh, well, the Parker Porter win, Parker Porter just got a win recently. Parker Porter stepped in on short notice, and Parker Porter is looking like he's taking his career more seriously nowadays. So it really means nothing. So this is a massive step up in competition against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. You look at his career, of his 13 wins, 12 by knockout, 1 by decision. Of his 4 losses, 2 by knockout, 2 by decision. He comes in this fight, he's lost 2 out of his last 3. His last fight was against Chris Daukaus. Finished him. This was at UFC 282, December of last year. Clipped him early, swarmed him, had a killer instinct, hurt him badly, was just chasing him down. Finally landed like a nasty left hook, dropped him. Referee steps in. Lasted 23 seconds into the first round. The fight before that was against Alexander Volkov. He got TKO'd in the first round himself. He was looking good early. He was landing some shots of his own, then gets clipped with a right hand, then starts eating uppercuts. Some people complained it was an early stoppage. I think it was a perfectly fine stoppage. The fight before that was against Curtis Blades at UFC 266. This is back in September of 2021. He gets out-grappled. Curtis Blades takes him down 1 time in each of the 3 rounds and just controls him. I think only in the first round was Jairzinho Rozenstruik able to get back to his feet. And then after that, in the second round, he gets taken down. He stays there. Third round, he gets taken down. He stays there. And he just loses a unanimous decision, gets dominated in the grappling. Really didn't have a whole lot of success on the feet either because he was so worried about the takedown. Fight before that, he TKO'd Augusto Sakai in the first round. It was a buzzer beater right at the end. He KO'd him. Fight before that, he lost to Cyril Gane, just got outpointed. Cyril Gane with his elite level kickboxing. So you really see a Jairzinho Rozenstruik who's just kind of trading wins and losses. Before that, he TKO'd Junior Dos Santos. Before that, he lost to Francis Ngannou, just gets bum rushed and gets KO'd in 20 seconds. And then one thing I do want to go back to is you go back to December of 2019. He main evented against Alistair Overeem. I was actually there live for this fight. He got out-grappled the entire fight. Alistair Overeem took him down repeatedly, was beating him up at the very last second of the fight. Literally, it was like 3 seconds left. He lands a leaping left hook, drops Alistair Overeem. The referee waves it off. Honestly, it was weird. It was kind of a weird early stoppage in a way. But, you know, it was only weird really because it was at the end of the round. But dropped him badly, split his lip. Got a buzzer beater KO against Alistair Overeem. But he was losing that fight, and he was getting out-grappled. So there's really some moments in time that you can point to with Jairzinho Rozenstruik where you can say, okay, well, he's been getting out-grappled in these certain fights, even in the Alistair Overeem fight where he won. And then before that was all wins via KO. He has a lot of KOs. So no matter what your prediction is in this fight, no matter what you think is going to happen in this fight, I don't see this going to decision. There is no way that this fight goes to decision. I think this is a fight where is Jailton Almeida good enough against a massive heavyweight to not shoot sloppy takedowns and then be able to get him, be able to get dominant position and then find a submission or be able to TKO him from that top position. And you know, it's interesting because there's no doubt in my mind that Jailton Almeida is the better grappler. There's no doubt in my mind that Jailton Almeida has good enough offensive wrestling to most likely be able to take Jairzinho Rozenstruik down. The only thing that kind of leaves a question mark in my mind, even if the skills are pretty close, the size can be a difference. And that's why I'm wondering, what is Jailton Almeida going to weigh in for this fight? Is he going to weigh in at 240? Is he going to weigh in at 230? Is he going to weigh in at 216? I don't know, because sometimes size can make up for a skill discrepancy. But ultimately, I think this is one of those fights where if Jairzinho Rozenstruik can keep it standing, Jairzinho Rozenstruik will win this fight, and he will most likely TKO or KO Jailton Almeida. If Jailton Almeida is able to get it to the ground, I think Jailton Almeida finds a finish, whether it's a full mount TKO or where Jairzinho Rozenstruik gives up his back and he just keeps pounding on him and TKOs him that way, or eventually finds a rear naked choke. I think this fight is definitely a finish. It all comes down to, can Jailton Almeida get Jairzinho Rozenstruik down? And the answer to that question, in my opinion, is yes. And that's why I am going Jailton Almeida first round submission. It's going to be a very late first round submission, because I think Jailton Almeida is going to be a little bit more careful in his entries. We've seen guys who are successful wrestlers like Curtis Blades. They're very good when they get on top, but their entries to the takedowns leave them susceptible, and then it leaves them getting caught on the feet because they're kind of hesitant to shoot because they have bad timing. I think Jailton Almeida is going to be a little bit patient early. I do think he's going to shoot within the first minute, but he's going to pick a shot. He's going to throw some shots, and he's going to shoot it on a takedown. Jairzinho is going to defend a little bit well, but they're going to get pressed up against the cage. Jailton Almeida is going to find a trip, get him down, start softening him up, start advancing position, starting to land some ground and pound. I think eventually he's going to work his way into a full mount. I think eventually he's going to find his way to the back of Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And I think you're going to see Jailton Almeida just land devastating ground and pound. And then eventually, Jailton Almeida is so good at this. He's throwing ground and pound, and then literally as he's throwing one of the punches, if he sees that neck get exposed, he immediately wraps up that rear naked choke. And I see a late first round rear naked choke for Jailton Almeida. I could see a scenario. Also, I thought about picking second round submission for Jailton Almeida, but I could see a scenario where maybe Jailton is a little bit more patient than I think, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik is kind of keeping him at bay with the striking, and then maybe he gets a takedown late. He's not able to advance the position, but he does some damage, but not able to find the finish in the first. And then in the second round, he gets him down, finishes him midway through the second round. But I just think Jailton Almeida is going to be shooting early because he knows how dangerous Jairzinho Rozenstruik is on the feet. He doesn't want to get KO'd. He's going to shoot early. He's going to get the takedown. He's going to beat him up on the ground, and then he's going to find that rear naked choke towards the tail end of the first round. And I think this is going to be the first real test for Jailton Almeida's career. If he beats Jairzinho Rozenstruik, I can't wait to see who he fights from there. But honestly, even though the heavyweight division isn't that deep, I don't see Jailton Almeida being able to hang out at the top of the division. But you never know. You never know until you see some of these fights. That's what makes them so exciting. But I think Jailton Almeida at least always has a backup plan. He's not a true natural heavyweight. So if he starts losing some fights, if he loses to Jairzinho Rozenstruik, gets caught with a massive right hand, gets clipped and put away, he can move down to light heavyweight and he can have some success there. Light heavyweight division isn't particularly stacked either. But I just think the grappling advantage for Jailton Almeida is going to be too much for Jairzinho Rozenstruik to overcome. I think the UFC intentionally set up this matchup to try to push Jailton Almeida up the rankings. And what's crazy is because the heavyweight division isn't particularly deep, if he beats Jairzinho Rozenstruik, he's like one win away from a potential title shot, depending on what's going on with the division. Think about it. If John Jones beats Stipe Miocic and then retires, the heavyweight division is now wide open. You basically have Sergey Pavlovich at the top of the division, Cyril Gane at the top of the division. You could see Jailton Almeida win this fight, and it could be potentially a number one contender fight for him. You could see Jones beat Stipe in November, then retire. You can see, Sergey Pavlovich just beat Curtis Blades. If Jailton Almeida goes out there and dominates Jairzinho Rozenstruik, next thing you know, you're looking at early 2024, the fight we never thought we would see, Sergey Pavlovich versus Jailton Almeida for the vacant heavyweight title. So that's how meaningful this fight is for Jailton Almeida. I'm not saying that's definitely going to happen, but who would have guessed last December, last November, we would be seeing Jamal Hill as the light heavyweight champion. So you never know what's bound to happen in the UFC. But I do think Jailton Almeida gets it done. His grappling is too good. His submissions are too good. His ground and pound is too good. His jiu-jitsu is too good. Once he gets Jairzinho Rozenstruik down, I think Rozenstruik is going to be a fish out of water. And I think he's going to try to explode back to his feet. He's going to give up bad positions against a jiu-jitsu guy like Jailton Almeida. It is not going to work out for him. First round rear naked choke win for Jailton Almeida. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for watching.